Welcome back to our second segment of our show. Our second segment is Lost in Translation. Lost in Translation, we get emails from celebrities and fans that vent their frustrations. This first email is from Joey from Haverhill. Reads simply, newbie, who is the NBA MVP? Dan?
This is a tough question.
Yeah,
almost as tough as the Western Conference.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of skilled players today. And when you talk about the MVP, you're talking about Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. I'm going to say you guys are going to hate this pick, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to go with my man, Kevin Garnett. He's playing like an MVP this year. Maybe it doesn't reflect on the stats, but when you look at that team, he's the heart and soul of it. And when you're talking about the most valuable player in the NBA, he's the most valuable player. They can lose Ray Allen on that team, and they'd still be in the playoffs, and they'd still have a great record. They could lose Paul Pierce, and with Ray Allen and his replacement, they'd still be one of the top teams in the East. You lose Kevin Garnett, they're back to last year.
You know what? I'm not gonna say that's your pick, but I mean, whatever. You had a lot of good things to say to back up that, but I'm not gonna go, out of the ballpark just for that. I have to stick with Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
I think when you watch this guy play, this guy had a dislocated, what was his pinky index finger?
I don't want to.
One of those. Dropped
Play
52 the next night against Dallas.
Hey,
I mean, he's fantastic. I mean, he's playing at so much of a high level. But then you got to look at it as LeBron James. LeBron James is like right here. There's not much either way you could go. It's probably a vote or two difference because LeBron James is playing with a less supporting cast, and you got to give the edge. To the Lakers, they have a better supporting cast and a better coach. So it's not like, Kobe Bryant's playing with nobodies. Deng's playing with nobodies, LeBron James.
I completely disagree with both of you guys. Quick, who's the starting five for the New Orleans Hornets besides Chris Paul? Quick. Somebody
Tyson Chandler.
Quick, somebody.
David West.
Huh?
Pedro Sayas.
You had to think about it.
No, I didn't. I just said three pretty quick.
You're not so sure about that.
I said three pretty quick.
The point is this. Okay, those players are mediocre. Those are like to call appetizers. Okay, those are your egg rolls. Those are your chicken wings. Okay, they're not a main meal. Chris Paul was the only main meal on that team, and they're a top 4 seed. And they're not doing it in the Eastern Conference. A little JV like LeBron James is doing it when they face Atlanta and the Miami Heat. This is how bad the Eastern Conference is. The Miami Heat are still playoff contenders.
Seattle.
Let's not talk about those teams.
Minnesota.
The Miami Heat.
Let's not talk about those
playoff contention. That's how bad the Eastern Conference is. The Miami Heat are still in contention to make the playoffs. Here's the point. Chris Paul right now is dominating the Western Conference in a point guard position.
Dominating?
Yes.
So Chris Paul is head and shoulders above Deron Williams. I can't see you saying that. Deron Williams, and you put Deron Williams stats and Chris Paul stats right next to each other, you wouldn't be able to pick them apart. They're almost identical. You can't say that.
I wouldn't be able to pick them apart, actually. I wouldn't be picking them apart because Deron Williams has an all-star named Carlos Boozer. Okay? No. I'm saying if you put Paul makes David West an all-star. That's the difference.
All right.
He makes him an all-star.
That's a good point. But at the same time, I'm asking you, the only way, when you're talking about the most valuable player, hey, Chris Paul's playing great. The Hornets aren't winning the championship. They're not. They're not making it out the West. They're not.
Be in that position.
When I'm talking about the most valuable player, not the best. Not the best player. I'm talking about the best. Hey,
that's what turns on Kobe Bryant, because Kobe Bryant's the best player, he's the toughest player, he's not the most valuable player.
He's not the most valuable. LeBron James is not the most valuable.
I can't see them on Selection Sunday, whenever they select this, and say, Chris Paul's the MVP. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. A legitimate MVP candidate who's not going to get it is Kevin Garnett. He is the most valuable player on any team in the NBA.
I know, but
name one player more valuable than him.
Chris Paul!
No, he's not.
Chris Paul, if the New Orleans
you can replace Chris Paul with another above. I'm not saying a bum or a regular. You can replace him with any second level tier point guard, and their stats would not be that far off. You could put Mike Bibby on that team, and they wouldn't be as good. I'm not saying that, but they wouldn't be. They'd be pretty far off. You take Kevin Garnett off that team, put another power forward.
You're still a decent team, though.
No,
you're a decent team.
They're not a number 1 team. They're not a number 2 team. No. They're not a number 3 team. They're not a number 3 team.
They have a pretty good coach too.
They're
But I'm talking about in a 7-game series.
Without Kevin Garnett, they're still a pretty good team. Without Chris Paul, they're right up there with Seattle and Portland.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're
No, they're
Golden
not.
State Denver.
No, they're not.
Right there.
No, they're not.
Without Chris
7,
Paul,
8, 9.
Without Chris Paul, you're gonna look me in the eye and tell me Chris Paul.
The only way that happens, if you pick up a point guard from Brockton and throw him in that lineup. You take an NBA point guard, put him in that lineup. They're not Seattle.
That's baloney.
They're not Seattle.
Seattle's baloney.
They're not that bad of a team. They're a good team. They got a good nucleus. One player, Chris Paul, is gonna make them a number 4 seed in the Western Conference. One player, that's baloney, and you know it. You don't even believe that.
What's the next email?
What's your email, Dan?
All right. My email comes from Jason Perry from Cambridge. He states, seeing as how Troy Brown's career might be over, how would you rate his overall career?
Definitely a Patriots Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely got to agree that.
Oh, he
Right
had
there with
heart.
Ben Coates and everything.
Yeah, the great
Right
Ben
up
Coates and all those guys. But I have to say he's a Patriots Hall of Fame at best. I mean, he had a good career. He's a guy who was not always the fastest guy.
Nope, never was.
Never was. He probably was never the best by talent.
You know what he was?
The best receiver on his team.
The shortest.
He was small, but he was versatile.
Yes, he was.
Agile.
I know. And
mobile. Hostile. He was awesome. He was awesome. If you said do any dirty work, he did it.
I know. I think today's theme of the show is going to be at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the game, when it was gut check time, Troy Brown was there.
Yeah, he was. He was
there.
He was there. He called for that ball.
I remember it was last year. It was a divisional playoff game against San Diego.
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago. I think he fumbled a football or something.
He fumbled it?
And then it was recovered. Troy Brown ripped it back. And that right there is the reason why they won that game against San Diego.
We weren't a better team than them that year.
No, we weren't.
We weren't supposed to win that
Y'all
game.
played them. Y'all played them.
Gut check time, Troy Brown was there.
All I gotta say is he embodies everything that is the modern day New England Patriots.
Yeah.
He is modest. He's not selfish. You know, you typically equate a wide receiver with a selfish or, you know what I mean, an egotistical guy. Yeah. He played the backseat to anybody. He did anything we asked him to do. Return some punts. Yeah, he'll take it to the crib. Catch some balls, he'll have 101 in a season. Play some defense. I'll get some interceptions for you. Did anything that you needed him to do. He's definitely a Patriots Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer in his career. He's just never that kind of player. But you gotta love this guy.
I love him.
Small, undersized, his whole career. Never the fastest guy. One of the best players that we've had.
Issues. He was great. With
never had. Yeah.
But he remind me of. I don't want to compare him. I'll compare him this way to Robert Horry. Robert Horry is a great, clutch player, and during gut check time he was there, and he was a winner. But he'll never be a Hall of Famer. But he was just a great team player. I remember Robert Horry with the Lakers. I always remember Troy Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Troy Brown was a better all-around receiver than, Robert Horry is an overall basketball player.
But in the two different sports.
But Troy Brown was a great receiver for his time. Sadly, he's outshadowed by 6'3" guys who can run a 4.3 and can catch ridiculous passes. But he's a Patriots Hall of Famer hands down.
Kari, what's the next email?
My email comes from Matthew Walsh from New Bedford, Mass.
Okay. The Whalers.
Yeah, New Bedford Whalers, Big Three. Hey, Kari, I was watching the show Steppin' Up Big Time, and I wanted to ask. I heard you guys talking about Rajon Rondo. He wants to ask, where do you see Rajon Rondo's ranking on the NBA's elite point guards in the NBA right now? Will he be a success, top 3, top 5 point guard in the next year or two max?
I think Rajon Rondo, he has potential. He reminds you of Tony Parker.
He really does.
Young Tony Parker?
He can score and everything, but I almost think Rajon Rondo, he needs to get better. I think tougher. He's a great perimeter defender.
Yep.
But I'm talking about players like Chauncey Billups and people
run all over.
And then like a Mark Jackson type, that post-up type player will dominate him. He needs to get stronger, I think, and tougher.
He needs to hit the gym.
He needs to get tougher, too.
He's young.
He needs to get tougher.
He's young.
Sam Cassell can help him with that.
Yeah.
Now, as far as ranking him now, I did a real quick rundown. He's probably in the 8th best point guard in the league right now. and that after you get past those elite, after you get past those elite point guards that we're talking about, they mix around a lot. But he's probably going to be consistently at that number 8 point guard,
second tier point guard.
He's at the top of the second tier point guard. He might be the number 1 second tier point guard in the league.
Yeah, I think when we talk about second tier, I think of you mentioned Andre Miller.
Yeah, Miller, Fisher, Bibby.
Yeah, Parker. I mean Parker.
No, Parker's
bottom of first.
He's the bottom of the